Even the tiniest among us enjoys a good story. At the award-winning Louisiana Book Festival, readers of all ages come together with writers for one exciting, activity-packed day that focuses on the joy of books. The festival is also an opportunity to celebrate Louisiana authors. Join us for book talks at the 2008 Louisiana Book Festival, featuring author William Joyce. For the last 8 years, the Center for the Book in the State Library of Louisiana has presented the Louisiana Writer Award. This year, for the first time, the award was presented to a children's book writer, Shreveport native William Joyce.
Winning the award was a very happy surprise. And I know Elmore Leonard, and I knew that he had been a past recipient. And that's the sort of recipient that I always assumed would receive the award. So when they called me, and I was like, I thought it was a prank. I wasn't quite sure, because I've had friends do stuff like that before. And finally, they convinced me that, we really have checked you out. I'm like, I do kid stuff. And so I was so flattered that they were taking children's literature seriously.
Author William Joyce has taken children's literature seriously in creating books that include George Shrinks, Dinosaur Bob, Rolie Polie Olie, A Day with Wilbur Robinson, and The Leaf Men and the Brave Good Bugs. His works have made the leap to the television and movie screen, winning 3 Emmys for the animated children's program Rolie Polie Olie. George Shrinks, the animated program, has enjoyed a successful run on PBS. And the Disney feature animation Meet the Robinsons was released in March of 2007. Though these projects have brought Joyce acclaim, he remains at heart a Louisiana boy.
Doing these books and doing these movies and TV shows, I'm always asked to move, go to California, go to New York, and I never have. And people are like, well, why do you stay in Louisiana? What? If your career is elsewhere, why do you stick around? I'm like, I love Louisiana, and I love the people there, and I love the culture. If it weren't for Louisiana, I wouldn't think up the stories that I think of. If it weren't the people that I've been around all my life, I wouldn't have that sense of, if you read my books, sort of daffy humanity that we have. And I think about, if you grow up with Mardi Gras, you're not going to be like other people.
In addition to Mardi Gras, the culture that Louisiana offered Joyce came in the form of genteel, curious, educated, and culturally involved family friends who brought with them experiences with New York and London theater. Joyce occasionally invites the people he works with from New York and Los Angeles to his hometown.
Anytime they've come to Shreveport and met my friends, they sit around and they're like, this is the most wonderful place. The most interesting people. I want to be friends with all your friends. Your friends are so much cooler than my friends. Old people.
Joyce's career path may have evolved to where he is today, but he remembers at the tender age of 5, while at a small rural library in North Louisiana, he determined that telling stories through children's books was a profession he could master.
They had a book there called Where the Wild Things Are, written by Maurice Sendak. It had been very controversial. This was 1963. And it's a story of a kid, a little boy, who is sent to bed without eating his supper because he's been bad. He's a wild thing. But what was controversial about it was that the monsters in it were supposedly scary. These big, bulbous, creatures. And as a little kid, I was like, this is the coolest kid's book I've ever seen. Look, these monsters look so cool. So it was this time when grown-ups were worrying too much about kids a little bit and going, this will be too scary for them, when it was exactly what kids would love. And so there was a brave librarian somewhere in rural Louisiana where this book was getting banned in many libraries at the time. And though it went on to win every award a children's book could win, people were nervous about it. But this librarian said, no, our kids need to see this book. And then that changed my life.
While still a child himself, writing and illustrating children's books became William Joyce's career choice.
It was the first time where I went, okay, wait, how did this happen? What is a book? And, the librarian explained to me, well, somebody makes this story up and somebody draws these pictures. And so it's like a guy did this, like a person. And they're like, yeah, a man named Maurice Sendak. And I'm like, so I like to draw. I can do this too? And she's like, yeah, you can do that too. So that it clicked then, you know. Okay, I'm going to learn to draw. I'm going to really learn to draw, and I'm going to make up stories, and that's kind of what I want to do. It wasn't like I was standing on the hilltop with the "as God is my witness," kind of moment, but it was this little moment of like the way kids' brains work, where they start figuring out how you grow up, how you connect the dots to become whatever it is you become. And I was like, well, I think that's what I want to do. So, given that, it was like, it's Louisiana in the 60s. It wasn't like, I want to do children's books, and you're 5 years old, that people are going to even know what to say to that, It's like, don't you want to be a fireman or something? Something a policeman, an astronaut. And I was like, no, I want to do this.
Joyce's first attempts at writing stories came with unexpected results.
My first book, the first foray into writing was actually it was the second grade. I won the fourth grade. There was a contest at my school to see who could write the best kids book, and I had what I thought was a humdinger of an idea that I was very proud of, and my fellow students liked. And I drew the pictures, I wrote the story, I turned it in. I expected to win, and I did not, and I didn't even get an honorable mention. I was really like, something's wrong with this voting. I mean, I really felt like I had this one sewn up. But after the assembly to give out the awards, we all went back to our rooms, and then over the intercom it said, "Would William Joyce please report to the principal's office?" I walked in, and I thought, well, they're going to give me my own award. This is a private ceremony. This is so much more dignified and special. And then I see, as I'm walking in, I see my parents are sitting there, and I'm like, oh, how sweet. They invited my parents to come in, and there's my book sitting on the principal's desk in front of them. And I guess I hadn't told you the title of the book. The title of the book was Billy's Booger. And it was biographical in a certain way. I was really bad at math, and in the book, there's this little boy named Billy who's very bad at math, and then he gets hit in the head by a meteorite one day, and that meteorite gives his boogers superpowers. And superpowers, especially in math, but they are also really strong, and they could fly and all that kind of stuff. But they lived up in Billy's nose, and that was their secret fortress stronghold. And when they go out to fight crime, he would just blow his nose, and out they would come. And they go fight crime, and you save the world and stuff. And then they'd have to, they're always supposed to be in a secret, and nobody's supposed to know who they are. So they just fly back up in Billy's nose and wait for the next call, But they're really good at math, and that was kind of what helped out Billy, that since they're up and kind of in his nose, close to his brain, they would, secretly sort of tutor or whisper answers to Billy, when he was trying to do his math homework. And it was all done in green crayon, too, actually, which I thought was kind of, an edgy aesthetic choice. But so I'm like, there's the book, and there's my parents, and there's the principal, and I'm waiting for my award, and the principal picks up my book, and he's like brandishing it. And to my parents, he says, "Mr. and Mrs. Joyce, your son's drawing these boogers in school." And my mother said, "Oh, you should see the stuff he draws at home." And, because it was like, dinosaurs eating my sisters, and, I was getting a lot of the emotional upheaval of being a kid out in these drawings. So, I was in trouble, and I had to promise not to draw boogers in school anymore, but it kind of left an impression on me. I was like, all the kids in my class really liked this story, and they liked the idea, and they liked the pictures, and my parents didn't mind, but the principal got upset, but the kids liked it, but the principal got upset. I was weighing this. I was like, and I didn't get kicked out of school, I just had to promise not to do that anymore. But I liked that I did something that pleased my fellows, but somehow, without really committing a crime, had, stirred up the grown-ups. And I think that began a lifelong, career trajectory for me, or at least a philosophy.
Joyce's creative nature and sense of adventure, which now fuel a successful career, were the source of some memorable pranks that he initiated as a young man.
Today, I would have gone to jail. I think back on the stuff I did in high school, and with their zero tolerance and all this stuff, and it's just like, there would be no room for my hijinks at all on any level. And so in the literary tradition, I was getting a little more sophisticated by the time I got to high school in that. We were studying Edgar Allan Poe, and I really liked the poem The Raven. And so, I don't know why, but I hit upon the thought of printing up 50,000 black round stickers that just said in white lettering, The Raven, and had the silhouette of a raven on it. And I was like, I'm going to stick these everywhere. And people are going to wonder what it is. And they're not going to know. I'm not going to tell them. I'm just going to do this in secret. And so with a handful of likewise, bored and restless youth, we started sticking these stickers everywhere. We would go down the halls and stick them on every locker. And then it was like, people were like, well, what is this? There are these raven stickers everywhere. And then we'd go to somebody's house at night and we'd put 400 raven stickers on some dad's car and all over the windows of the house and the doors. And then in sort of old, some of my watercolor paper, we'd write, the raven has struck. And we'd burn the edges of the paper and make it look like there was blood on it. And we'd stick a knife in their door and run away. And the next day it'd be like, the raven struck my house last night. My house was covered with stickers and this weird, thing on the door with this knife and this fake blood. What is, everybody just didn't know what was going on. Then we go downtown on weekends, on Sundays when there's nobody downtown, and we put stickers on all the shop windows downtown. And then we go to parking lots, and it taught me how people really don't pay any attention to what's going on. That we could go into a parking garage and put a sticker on every car, right in the middle, in the window, in the front window, and no one would say a word. Oh, that's some kids just putting stickers on car windows. I don't know. No one ever stopped us. So we began to realize we were invisible by being in plain sight. So this began to, citywide, begin this what is the raven? What is the raven? What is the raven? And we just be giggling away. God, we're getting away with this thing. And we're not really doing anything wrong. I mean, we're just putting up stickers. But then one day, I came to school just before we got out. It was the day we got out for Christmas break. And over the morning announcements, I will never forget this. It's burned in my brain. I heard it once, but I know it exactly by heart. After doing all the things about when, the Fetal Pig Club meets and all this other stuff, at the last morning announcement was, and Dr. Shaw will be giving an announcement at the end here. And Dr. Shaw's voice came on. Yes, I'm offering a reward of $200 and $250 reward for anyone giving information leading to the arrest and conviction of peoples defacing the school in the name of the Raven. You may anonymously drop any information at my office. Thank you. I was like, dude. Uh-oh. Somebody just dialed up the anxiety meter here. So all through that holiday, I was like, what am I going to do about this? I mean, we had a whole Christmas holiday to think about it, and I talked to my cohorts, and, have you told anybody? No. Have you told anybody? No. So the day we go back to school, halfway through the day, nothing's happened. I'm like, okay, I've gotten away with this, It would have been easy just to call up any print shop, and you would have found out, who printed 50,000, Raven stickers. But halfway through the day, Bill Joyce, would you please report to the principal's office? I'm like, okay, I'm busted. I go in, and there's every ne'er-do-well in the high school is waiting in the office. But I walk in, they go, you. So I sit down with Dr. Shaw, and he goes, all right, we know everything. We just want to know, is anybody else out there involved? And I said, no, sir. And he goes, all right, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, we're just putting stickers around. And he goes, well, why? I'm like, I don't know, just to get people talking. And he's like, so you're not a terrorist organization? I'm like, no. You're not affiliated with the Black Panthers or anything like that? I'm like, no. And your only goal is to incite, I'm like, curiosity? What does the raven mean? Well, it's from Edgar Allan Poe. And he just was like, so this is a literary reference. Okay. So you weren't out to actually get anybody, there's no political statement behind this at all. I'm like, no, sir, there's not. It's just this. And he goes, well, I got to tell you, you had me really freaking out. I would follow, I'd be inches behind you. I'd find the little peelings on the back of the stickers. You know, just seconds ago, there hadn't been a sticker on this whole row of lockers, and I'd round the corner, and then there'd be a whole line and your little thing still just falling from, your hands. I'd just miss you. But the one that got me, I came in and there was one on the seat of my chair. And I was like, oh my God, I was just in here. How did he get in? So I opened my drawer, and there's one in the drawer.
Now, my memory of it, when I asked him, why did you do that? He said, I got to thinking about it. I have never done anything that I could tell my children or grandchildren that would be funny. And he said, I thought that would be funny to tell them about putting up the raven. And I thought that was pretty creative. And I said to him, I said, well, there's one thing I know for sure, you're full of it.
So he just sat there and he goes, all right. You'll be allowed back into school. You will not be arrested. And I'll not call the police. And there's one condition, that is you have to clean off every one of these stickers on this school property.
He cleaned them up. Actually, we never did get them all until we had a total renovation of the school. That was when, because even years later, somewhere, all of a sudden, there would still be that little sticker, the raven.
Dr. Shaw suggested I channel my enthusiasms and talents into more creative endeavors than the mischievous things that I was doing back then.
He was just a very talented youngster that didn't necessarily walk to the regular beat of life. We all knew that he was exceedingly talented. We just didn't know how to guide it particularly, but we gave him a great deal of freedom, and I think we now see what's come of that, and we're very proud of it.
Nice and quiet all around. Quiet all around, please. And action!
Joyce is pleased to see the opportunities currently developing in Louisiana for more young people to become involved in filmmaking.
The way tax breaks are working now, especially in Louisiana, I mean, Hollywood now is coming here. So the more we can build that infrastructure, the more we will have an entire new industry. I mean, we do now. We just have to hang on to it. And we can start to grow. What I think is exciting about that is it gives us the need to build an infrastructure to keep that industry there and then feed it with our own talent. So kids growing up here who are interested in film or any aspect of filmmaking, different schools, colleges are starting programs to train them because the industry is saying we need more of that. We don't want to have to bring it in every time. We need people from there that live there to do this. So that's what everybody's working on doing right now. And so if you're young, this is a great time to start trying to use this to get into a new thing, to get into filmmaking, to get into television, to get into documentaries. What's exciting right now is, the technology is becoming so, available that you can be young, you can be 10, you can be 8 years old, you can be 5 years old, and you can be thinking in terms of a lot of different ways of telling a story. You can think of it in motion picture ways, in animation. There's all this technology available to kids now that it can be a part of their lives from day one. A lot of schools I go to now have, in small schools, in elementary schools, filmmaking programs. They can start to learn to computer animate or edit, or they're thinking in a visual way. There's so much visual storytelling in their lives now that books are one, but making a film or making a television show or using video, I mean, or doing animation is something that's they're getting exposed to so early now, and they take to it with astonishing quickness. It becomes a part of their language almost immediately. So that's really exciting to see, and it's really exciting to be a part of that, because I'm going to be working with these kids in the twilight of my career. They're going to be, you know, these Mozarts of animation coming up that I hope to get to work with. There's something very, very exciting and a lot of adrenaline involved in doing motion pictures and television, where you're just going at it, you know, full speed. Lots of money's getting spent. You have to be thinking on your feet, spending it wisely, trying to tell your story with the idea of, you know, commerce, money's, you know, over your shoulder, and that has its own like super invigorating, exciting kind of atmosphere to work in. But it can wear you out. So I try every day to sit down for at least an hour and paint or write in private on books that I'm working on, because that's a whole different, you know, kettle of fish. That's me, the canvas, a blank piece of paper, and eventually an editor. But the movies, it's tens of millions of dollars and lots of people, and trying to, you know, forge agreements and keep the vision alive. So that's exciting. Then there's the pastoral quiet side of sitting in the room by yourself. I used to draw from within to find my stories, you know, either things that inspired me or that stories I'd wanted to tell, things I'd wanted to address. Once I became a parent, we had our first child, and then 3 years later, our second child. Then I had this constant source of material that it wasn't like I was like, oh, you know, my head writer is now here, you know, in diapers. But it was like I got to see, I mean, your life changes completely when you become a parent. It is like someone waved the magic daddy wand over you, and your perspective changes suddenly and irrevocably. And so I'm focused on this little being that's running around our house and all the things that they do, watching them try to figure out the world and how things work and what's right and wrong and what makes them laugh, and trying to chase a leaf in the wind. I mean, things like that bring such delight to them that suddenly is right there in front of you every day, and it's impossible not to draw inspiration from that. There are tons of things in the Rolie Polie Olie television series that half the stories in the, 400 different stories that we told in that show came from stuff that I just saw happen around our house. Like trying to get ready to get out of the house for school in the morning, and how, you have 7 minutes. We did one episode called 7 Minutes and Counting. It was about that, when your mom looks at the clock and goes, we have 7 minutes to leave or we're going to be late for school. And how it's like, the launch of a missile or sending a spacecraft into orbit. I mean, it's that tense, it's that insane to find the car keys. Where's my other shoe? I can't find my homework. That morning madness that you go through. I'd seen it so many times, I was like, okay, let's just do a show. And it will be 7 minutes long, it'll be one take, the camera will never cut, and we're just going to run around showing everybody trying to get their stuff.
While the written book today faces an assortment of electronic rivals, Joyce considers the experience of reading books an irreplaceable one for children.
To me, one of the most important things a parent can do with a child is sit down and read a book to them. I mean, it is such a primordial, satisfying, bonding experience. I mean, anybody who's ever been a child and had been read to by someone that they were close to, their parent or their uncle or their grandparents, it's a thing that you always remember. It's a thing that you carry inside you. And it's the togetherness of being with someone that you trust and love, and having them open this world to you and sort of take you by the hand and walk you through what is usually a drama, There's just a magic there, and it imprints, I think, on kids the strength of storytelling, the wonder of storytelling, the power of it, and then the way it can link you to another person. We'll never find anything better than that, I don't think.
Louisiana Book Talks is produced in cooperation with the Center for the Book in the State Library of Louisiana, and made possible in part by a grant from the Louisiana Endowment for the Humanities. This program is a production of Louisiana Public Broadcasting.